When God prepares you for a blessing, it's not always in the way we expect. We often think of blessings as sudden, immediate, and overwhelmingly good. But in God's divine order, blessings come through a process. And part of that process involves preparation. You see, before God can release His promises into your life, He must first prepare you to receive them. When God is preparing you for a blessing, discomfort is often the first sign that something is happening behind the scenes. It can take many forms: an unexpected challenge at work, a relationship that becomes strained, or a season of uncertainty when nothing seems to go as planned. At times, it may feel like you're walking through a wilderness, unsure of the direction, with no clear path ahead. This discomfort is unsettling, and it pushes you to the edge of your comfort zone. But it's important to understand that this discomfort is not without purpose. In fact, it's often God's way of transforming you into the person you need to become to handle the blessing He has in store for you. You see, when life is comfortable, we tend to settle into routines. We become accustomed to things as they are, and our growth can stagnate. We may even resist change because it's easier to stay in the familiar than to venture into the unknown. But God knows that true growth happens when we are stretched beyond our current limitations. That's why He allows discomfort. It's His way of disrupting the status quo and shaking you out of complacency. Discomfort forces you to confront areas of your life that need development, whether it's your faith, character, or ability to trust in Him. God uses discomfort as a refining process. Just as gold is refined by fire, we too are refined through difficult circumstances. In these moments of discomfort, we are faced with our weaknesses, our doubts, and the things that hold us back. It's during these times that God is shaping us, molding us into vessels that can carry His blessings. Without this process, we might not have the capacity to handle what He has planned for us. The blessing may be so significant that we must first be strengthened, matured, and transformed to fully receive and steward it well. Discomfort also has a way of bringing us closer to God. When everything is going well, it's easy to rely on our own abilities and understanding. But when life becomes uncomfortable, when we face challenges we cannot control or solve on our own, we are driven to seek God more earnestly. We begin to pray more fervently, spend more time in His Word, and lean on His guidance. In the midst of discomfort, we come to realize that our strength alone is not enough. We need God's strength, wisdom, and presence in our lives. In this process, discomfort teaches us valuable lessons about perseverance and faith. It stretches us in ways we never imagined and equips us with new skills and perspectives. We learn to trust in God's timing, even when things don't seem to make sense. We learn to wait on His promises with patience, knowing that He is working behind the scenes for our good. And most importantly, we learn that discomfort is not a punishment, but a sign that God is at work within us, preparing us for something greater than we could have imagined. The periods of discomfort are temporary, but the transformation they produce is lasting. Though the process may feel painful at times, it's essential to remember that God's plan is always good. Discomfort is simply the refining tool He uses to prepare us for the blessing that is to come. The greater the blessing, the more profound the transformation required, and the discomfort we endure is a vital part of that journey. When God is preparing you for a blessing, one of the most profound signs is an increased spiritual sensitivity. This is a deepening of your awareness of His presence, His voice, and His direction in your life. It's as if a veil is lifted and you begin to perceive things in a way that you hadn't before. Suddenly, your spirit becomes attuned to God in ways that feel more intimate and personal. You may find yourself drawn to prayer more frequently, not out of obligation, but out of a desire to connect with God on a deeper level. There is a stirring within your soul that calls you to spend time in His presence, to seek His guidance, and to listen to what He is saying. This heightened spiritual awareness is a critical part of God's preparation process. Before He can bless you in the physical realm, He often works on deepening your connection with Him in the spiritual realm. You begin to notice subtle promptings in your heart, gentle nudges that lead you to make certain decisions, avoid certain paths, or take actions that align with His will. These moments are God's way of guiding you toward His purpose. As your spiritual sensitivity grows, you start to discern His voice more clearly, distinguishing it from the noise of everyday life. You may feel an inner conviction about things that never seemed important before, or sense a new clarity in decisions that had previously been confusing. During this time, the Word of God may come alive in new and meaningful ways. Scriptures you've read before suddenly take on a deeper meaning, and you feel as though God is speaking directly to you through them. Passages that once seemed routine now resonate with your heart and provide comfort, direction, and strength. It's as though God is drawing you closer, preparing you to receive His promises by filling you with the wisdom and knowledge you need to navigate the path ahead. This increased spiritual sensitivity often brings a heightened awareness of your need for God. You begin to realize just how dependent you are on His grace, His guidance, and His provision. In this state, you start to let go of the desire to control everything on your own. Instead, you place more trust in God, allowing Him to lead you step by step. It's a humbling process, as you recognize that your own strength is not enough to handle what's coming, but through your spiritual connection with God, you can access the strength and wisdom needed for the next season. You may also find yourself becoming more sensitive to the needs of others. This is another sign of spiritual growth that God brings about as He prepares you for a blessing. He doesn't just prepare you to receive, He prepares you to serve, to give, and to bless others. As your spiritual awareness increases, your heart becomes more aligned with His, and you begin to see the world through His eyes. You feel more compassion, more empathy, and more of a calling to make a difference in the lives of those around you. This shift in perspective is part of God's way of preparing you to not only receive a blessing, but to become a blessing in the lives of others. Furthermore, this increased sensitivity allows you to recognize spiritual warfare more clearly. You become more aware of the enemy's attempts to distract or discourage you, but you also become more confident in God's ability to protect and guide you through it. Spiritual battles that once left you feeling defeated now seem like opportunities to lean on God even more. As you grow in sensitivity to His Spirit, you also grow in your ability to stand firm in your faith, knowing that God is with you and that He is preparing you for something far greater than what you can see right now. The deepening of your spiritual sensitivity is a divine process. It's God drawing you into a closer relationship with Him, equipping you with the spiritual tools necessary to walk into the blessing He has prepared for you. This process enriches your faith, sharpens your discernment, and opens your heart to receive all that He has in store. When God is preparing you for a blessing, one of the most challenging signs is the closing of doors in your life. These closed doors can come in the form of missed opportunities, broken relationships, or paths that suddenly become inaccessible. And at first it may feel like a setback. You may wonder why something you were working toward, something you thought was part of God's plan, suddenly comes to an end. It can be frustrating and disheartening, especially when you've invested time, energy, and even prayer into what seemed like a promising path. But it's essential to understand that when God closes a door, He does it with purpose. It's not a punishment, nor is it a sign of failure, it's preparation. God closes doors to make space for something greater. Often the doors that close are not aligned with the blessing He has in store for you. They may be distractions, things that would have led you down a road of mediocrity rather than the extraordinary destiny God has planned. Sometimes we are so focused on pursuing what we think is best for us that we can't see the bigger picture. But God, in His infinite wisdom, sees beyond our current situation. He knows when a door needs to close because what's behind it isn't part of the ultimate plan He has for your life. When a door closes, it's an opportunity to realign yourself with God's will. It's a moment to pause, reflect, and seek His direction with renewed focus. God doesn't close doors to leave you in confusion. He closes them to redirect you toward the right path. It may feel uncomfortable in the moment, but this is part of His refining process. He uses closed doors to protect you from paths that would lead to less than what He intends. Sometimes the doors that close represent things we would have settled for, but God is calling us to more. He knows what you're capable of, and He knows the blessing He's preparing for you requires a different direction. Closed doors are also a sign of growth. God is not just preparing the blessing for you, He's preparing you for the blessing. When doors close, it's a signal that you're ready for something new, something greater. It's a divine shift that pushes you toward the next level of your destiny. The closed door may be an indication that you've outgrown the previous season and that God is preparing to open a door that will challenge you, grow you, and elevate you in ways you never imagined. These moments are also a test of trust. Closed doors require you to trust God's timing and His plan, even when it doesn't make sense to you. They challenge you to believe that He has something better ahead, even when all you can see are the doors that have been shut. It's in these moments that your faith is stretched and your dependence on God deepens. You learn to let go of control and lean into His wisdom, knowing that He is guiding you every step of the way. In this process, you begin to recognize that closed doors are not the end, they are transitions. They are the turning points that lead to greater opportunities. Often it's only in hindsight that we realize that closed doors were necessary for us to step into the blessings God had prepared all along. What once felt like a loss becomes a gain when the new door opens, revealing a greater blessing than you could have imagined. God's plan is always greater than our own. The doors He closes are not meant to hinder you, but to position you for His divine purpose. Even though it may feel uncomfortable in the moment, trust that every closed door is part of the preparation process. It's God clearing the path, ensuring that when the right door opens, you'll be ready to walk through it with confidence, knowing it was His hand guiding you all along. When God is preparing you for a blessing, one of the signs you may notice is the arrival of new people and new relationships in your life. These individuals often come into your life unexpectedly, yet their presence is significant and purposeful. God is intentional in the relationships He orchestrates, and when He is preparing you for something greater, He ensures that you have the right people around you to support, guide, and sometimes even challenge you. These new connections are not coincidental. They are divinely aligned to help you move into the next phase of your journey. As you are being prepared for a blessing, God knows that the people who were part of your previous season may not be equipped to walk with you into your next one. This doesn't mean that those relationships were bad or unimportant. In fact, many of them served their purpose for a time. But as God prepares to elevate you, He often brings new people who have the experience, wisdom, and spiritual insight to help you grow. These individuals may have a deeper understanding of what you're going through, or they may have walked a similar path and can offer guidance that you hadn't previously encountered. Sometimes these new relationships challenge you in ways that are uncomfortable but necessary for your growth. They may push you to think differently, act more boldly, or step out in faith in areas where you were hesitant before. These people are not here to simply affirm everything you already know. They are here to expand your perspective and help you become the person God is molding you to be. The conversations you have with them, the insights they offer, and the ways they encourage you are all part of God's process of preparation. God also uses these new relationships to open doors that you couldn't have accessed on your own. There are times when blessings are tied to the people you are connected with. The right relationship can lead you to opportunities that align with God's plan for your life. It might be a mentor who sees your potential and offers you guidance, or a peer who connects you to resources you didn't even know you needed. These individuals become catalysts for your growth and success, propelling you toward the blessings that God has set aside for you. In some cases, these new relationships require you to let go of old ones that are no longer serving God's purpose in your life. This can be difficult, especially when you've built long-term connections with certain people. However, not everyone is meant to go where God is taking you. Some relationships were only meant for a season, and holding onto them too tightly can hinder your progress. When God introduces new people into your life, it's often a sign that He is shifting you into a new season, and with that shift comes a change in the relationships that surround you. These new relationships also serve as a reminder that God's blessings are not meant to be experienced in isolation. He brings people into your life who will walk alongside you, support you, and share in the joy of what He is doing. They are there to encourage you when the journey gets tough, to celebrate your victories, and to remind you of God's faithfulness when you feel uncertain. In many ways, they reflect God's love and grace, providing you with tangible examples of His care for you. These relationships are not just about what you can gain from others. Often God places new people in your life so that you can be a blessing to them as well. As He prepares you, He may also be using you to support and uplift others who are on their own journey of preparation. The blessings He is preparing for you are often intertwined with how you serve and bless others. Through these connections, you may find that your own growth and the blessings you receive are directly linked to the impact you have on those God has brought into your life. In this way, new people and new relationships become a vital part of the preparation process. God uses them to build you up, to stretch you, and to align you with the destiny He has planned for you. Whether through support, challenge, or opportunity, these individuals play a crucial role in the unfolding of God's blessings in your life. When God is preparing you for a blessing, one of the most noticeable signs is a growing desire for change. This inner stirring, often subtle at first, begins to intensify over time, making it impossible to ignore. It's a deep, almost instinctual sense that the current state of your life is no longer sufficient, that something more is waiting just beyond the horizon. You may not be able to fully articulate it, but there's a restlessness within you, a sense that staying where you are, either mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, will no longer satisfy the longings of your heart. This growing desire for change is not random. It is God's way of preparing you for the new season He is about to bring into your life. As this desire for change intensifies, you may begin to feel a sense of discontent with things that once brought you comfort or fulfillment. Activities, relationships, or even routines that used to feel satisfying may now seem mundane or even burdensome. This isn't because those things were bad, but because they are no longer aligned with where God is leading you. He is using this internal shift to create a hunger in you for more, a hunger for growth, purpose, and transformation. The desire for change pushes you to reconsider the things you've been holding on to and to evaluate whether they are still serving the person you are becoming. This growing desire for change often brings a renewed sense of vision. You may begin to dream bigger, imagining a future that looks different from your present reality. You start to see possibilities that you hadn't considered before. This is God expanding your capacity to dream and preparing your heart to receive the blessings He has in store. You may feel a pull to step out of your comfort zone, to take risks, or to pursue new opportunities that align with this evolving vision. This is all part of the preparation process. God is enlarging your vision because the blessing He is preparing for you requires a broader perspective. At times, this desire for change may also come with a sense of urgency. You may feel like you're running out of time or that something needs to shift quickly. While this can be unsettling, it's important to recognize that this urgency is not meant to cause anxiety, but to prompt action. God often uses this sense of urgency to propel you forward, moving you out of a season of waiting and into a season of active pursuit. The growing desire for change is meant to stir your spirit, to move you from a place of passive longing to a place of intentional preparation. This is where faith and action intersect. As your desire for change grows, so does your willingness to take the necessary steps toward it. This desire for change is also deeply spiritual. It reflects a growing awareness of God's plans for your life and an increasing dissatisfaction with anything less than His best. As this desire grows, you may find yourself drawn more deeply into prayer, seeking His guidance with greater intensity. You recognize that the change you long for cannot be accomplished through your own strength alone. It is a divine process, one that requires God's wisdom, timing, and direction. The desire for change is not just about external circumstances shifting, it's about internal transformation as well. God is not only preparing to change your situation, He is preparing to change you. During this time, you may also feel a heightened sensitivity to the things that are out of alignment with God's will for your life. Old habits, mindsets, or even relationships that once felt comfortable may now feel like obstacles in the way of the change you desire. This is God's way of pruning you, of removing the things that no longer serve your growth. The growing desire for change is His way of helping you let go of what's holding you back so that you can fully step into the new season He has prepared for you. This desire for change is a divine signal that something greater is on the horizon. It is God's way of awakening you to the possibility of transformation and inviting you to partner with Him in the process. As your desire for change grows, so does your readiness to receive the blessing He has been preparing all along. When God is preparing you for a blessing, one of the most powerful signs is an unexplainable peace that settles over you, even in the midst of waiting. This peace is not something you can conjure up on your own, nor is it dependent on external circumstances. It doesn't make sense by worldly standards, especially when you're waiting for something that hasn't yet materialized. Instead, this peace comes from a deep spiritual place, where your heart and mind are anchored in the certainty that God is working behind the scenes on your behalf. This peace is not the absence of challenges or uncertainty. In fact, you may still face obstacles, unanswered questions, and delays. But despite all of that, there's a sense of calm that fills your spirit, as if you've handed the weight of your concerns over to God, and He's given you His peace in return. It's a supernatural assurance that everything is under control, even when it feels like life is in a holding pattern. You may not know exactly how things will unfold, but you know without a doubt that God is in control of the process. This kind of peace is rooted in trust. During this time of waiting, you begin to understand that waiting is not wasted time. God uses waiting periods to shape, refine, and prepare you for the blessing He is about to bring. This realization brings a deeper sense of peace, because you start to see that there is purpose in the pause. What may feel like stagnation is actually divine preparation. God is working in the background, orchestrating events, opening doors, and aligning situations in ways you cannot yet see. As this understanding grows, so does your peace, because you realize that God's timing is perfect. He is never early, but He is also never late. He knows exactly when to bring the blessing into your life, and trusting in that timing brings a profound sense of contentment. This peace also changes the way you wait. Rather than waiting in frustration or impatience, you begin to wait with expectation and confidence. You know that something good is coming, and that makes the waiting easier to endure. The peace that fills your heart acts as a buffer against doubt and anxiety. When uncertainty tries to creep in, the peace of God reassures you that He is faithful to His promises. This allows you to focus not on what hasn't happened yet, but on the certainty of what is to come. It's a shift in mindset from worrying about outcomes to resting in the assurance that God's plan will unfold in His perfect timing. This peace allows you to remain present and grateful in the current moment. Even though you are waiting for a future blessing, you are not consumed by the wait. You start to see the blessings that already exist in your life, and you learn to appreciate the journey as much as the destination. This peace is what keeps you grounded, reminding you that God's hand is on every part of your life, not just the end result. You begin to understand that the waiting period itself is a blessing because it is a time of growth, reflection, and deepened faith. There is also an element of surrender that comes with this peace. You reach a point where you stop trying to force things to happen in your own strength, and instead you let go and allow God to take the lead. This surrender doesn't come from a place of giving up, but from a place of trust. You no longer feel the need to control every aspect of your journey because you know that God is already in control. The peace that comes with this surrender is transformative. It frees you from the pressure of having to figure everything out and allows you to rest in the knowledge that God already has everything figured out for you. This unexplainable peace in the waiting is a divine gift. It is God's way of reassuring you that you are exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't look like it on the surface. This peace sustains you strengthens your faith, and prepares your heart to receive the blessing when the time is right. It is a reminder that God's promises are sure and His timing is perfect. In conclusion, when God is preparing you for a blessing, He often reveals signs that may not always make sense in the moment, but are designed to lead you toward His greater purpose. Whether it's the discomfort that pushes you out of your comfort zone, the increased spiritual sensitivity that opens your heart to His voice, or the closing of doors that redirects your path, each sign is part of His divine preparation. New relationships, a growing desire for change, and an unexplainable peace in the waiting are all ways God's signals that He is aligning you with His plan. The process may not be easy, but it is necessary for your transformation, growth, and ultimate blessing. Trust in the journey, knowing that God is at work, preparing you for the fulfillment of His promises.